So back in 2023, I took my first ever CCC junior. And although it was pretty good, I got 60 out of 75 points, I could have done way better and I missed out on honor roll. And this is a really bad mistake because there's a huge difference between those who get honor roll versus distinction. And you'll recognize way more for getting honor roll than distinction or even no awards. So how did it happen? Well, during the CCC, I was doing pretty well on the J1, J2, J3, and then it came to J4 and it was about triangles and I had to figure out some sort of algorithm. Now this one was a bit tricky for me as it took me around 1.5 hours. So I didn't have that much time left for the fifth problem. However, I did not calculate that I could have gotten way more points and potentially have gotten honor roll. You see, the CCC honor roll junior cutoff is typically between 64 and 67, meaning if you get 7 points, you're basically guaranteed honor roll. And this is where the one huge mistake I did not account for messed me up. And it's really tragic how most people don't even know about this. Most people would not have gotten close to getting those 7 points. And that's because they don't know about partial points. Partial points are God. Partial points are essential to your CCC performance. And it's something that nobody knows about. Like if you were to ask anyone taking the CCC, they would not really think about partial points. They would just think, oh, I can't solve this problem and therefore I can't get the points. Like, no, you can. It's just you don't understand that there's so many little points that you can get everywhere throughout the contest that you don't know about. And it may mean the difference between distinction and honor roll, just like it was for me. So to save you from making the same mistake I did, I'm going to tell you about partial points. As you probably can tell from the name, partial points are just points you can get from a problem without having to solve it completely. Now usually a problem is 15 points in total, but you can actually get 7 or 6 or 5, maybe even 12 points from the problem without having to solve it completely. There are these things called subtasks within problems, and they have lower constraints than the whole problem itself. And so if you have a bad time complexity solution, you can probably sneak in some points because of that. And this is really useful. Like if you have a ov n cubed solution where there's a subtask with n is less than or equal to 10, then you know that you can probably use that solution. And because of that, you may have just secured 2 points on that problem where you might otherwise have gotten 0. And guess what? Everyone else is getting 0 too. It blows my mind how people don't know this because it's such an easy way to get points, but people just don't utilize it. So to go back to my 2023 CCC performance, if I had known about partial points, I may have gotten more than 60 and possibly honor roll. Okay, so now you know about partial points, but how do you actually put it into action? So that's what I did last year. Last year was my first CCC senior and I got the first 2 questions pretty quickly. I essentially tried to solve problem 3, however, I couldn't really figure out how to go about it. It was an ad hoc problem, so you had to use your critical thinking skills and come up with a unique solution. There was no sort of algorithm you could do. However, despite this, I still managed to get 2 points on that problem. And this is really good because it allowed me to get distinction. Distinction last year, or 2024 for senior, was 32. So those who only solved the first 2 problems didn't even get top 25%. And what's really sad is there's so many people who just solved the first 2 questions because they had no idea how to solve the others. They wouldn't bother just trying it out and they got 0 on everything else. But now, with the knowledge of partial points, you know that you can solve these problems with lower constraints. Or there might be some other kind of constraints, not regarding the numbers, maybe some key piece of information like with graph theory. Maybe there's only one path in the problem, so you don't have to worry about other ones, and you can grab some points if you actually know how to solve that test case. So for me, I grinded partial points. Like S3 I got 2 points, as I mentioned. S4 I also got 2 points, and S5 I also got 2 points. So I actually ended up getting 36 out of 75, which is higher than some of my friends who got 34 or under. I actually got the highest score in my school for the CCC senior, tied with a 12th grader who is now at Waterloo Comp Sci. And if I even got 4 more points, I would have gotten honor roll. You can see how incredibly important partial points are in your CCC success and beyond. Let's say if you want to get to Waterloo Comp Sci or U of T, this is really essential to helping boost your performance in these contests, as well as some other competitive programming contests, not limited to just the CCC, such as Code Forces or USICO for the US. Remember, there's so many people who don't even know about partial points, and it's crazy. So you can get ahead of 90% of the competition who may be at the exact same skill level as you, but just don't know about partial points or don't have the courage to even try. Don't be afraid of the big problems like J5s or S5. I remember I still got 2 partial points from an S5. Like, that's the hardest problem. That's International Olympiad of Informatics type. That's like the final boss of competitive programming. And I still got 2 partial points on it. And there's so many people who didn't even try that and they all got 0. So use this tip wisely and don't be afraid to try out every single problem. Read them all, try them all. Now, I hope you learned something from this video. Make sure to like and subscribe if you did. And I hope you use this tactic for your next CCC. That's coming up real soon. I'll see you next time.